Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking a really massive shift in how the modern world works, how it buys, and honestly, how it values time. We're going to trace this huge macroeconomic evolution from a traditional service-based world into what we now call the experience economy. But don't worry, we aren't just going to float around in the clouds of high-level macro theory. We are actually going to put this theory to the test using some pretty fascinating ground-level tourism data to see how real, everyday people actually behave. So let's dive right into this with a question that gets straight to the heart of the matter. Why on earth do parents happily shell out $100, or honestly even more, for a kid's birthday party at a place like Chuck E. Cheese when the raw ingredients for a cake cost, just a few dollars? It's a really profound question when you think about it. It's the battle of commoditization versus customized value. People are willingly opening their wallets for something so much bigger than just flour, sugar, and a place to sit down. They are paying for something distinctly different from a standard product or service. All right, Section 1, the progression of value. To really get today's consumer, we actually have to look backward. Just think about the evolution of the humble birthday cake, because it is literally the perfect illustration of how economies evolve. So back during the agrarian economy, parents baked cakes from scratch using raw commodities, farm ingredients like eggs and butter that cost mere dimes. Then came the industrial economy, all about mass-produced goods. Parents spent maybe $1 or $2 on a Betty Crocker premix. Moving into the service economy, busy parents started paying to save time, right? They'd order a pre-baked cake from a local bakery or grocery store for maybe $10 or $20. But today, in the experience economy, parents essentially outsource the entire memorable event. They pay $100 or more in admission fees to a business that completely stages the party. And the cake, it's often just thrown in for free. We've evolved from commodities to goods to services and finally to experiences. When you map this progression out, you see this really clear upward curve. Down at the bottom left, you have undifferentiated commodities, and they're competing entirely on price. Commoditization is kind of like gravity. It just drags businesses down. But as you move up that curve through customization, specifically mass customization, you start creating offerings that are highly relevant to individual needs. That sets you apart from the competition, it drives higher value, and it allows you to charge premium pricing. By customizing a service to exactly what an individual needs at a very specific moment, you inherently turn it into a memorable event. You transform it into an experience. So the absolutely crucial point to remember here is this vital distinction. The service economy is fundamentally about saving time for the customer. Think about getting fast food or dropping off dry cleaning or grabbing a quick oil change. You are paying someone else to do a task so you don't have to. The experience economy, though, it flips that completely upside down. It is all about charging for the time a customer happily spends with a business. If a business charges for the intangible activities its people execute, sure, it's a service. But if it charges for the time customers spend with it, like paying an admission fee, it is firmly in the experience business. Moving on to Section 2, the 4 experience realms. Theorists Pine and Gilmore actually map out these experiences along 2 main axes. The vertical axis looks at participation. Basically, is the customer an active participant who affects the outcome, or are they just a passive observer? Then, the horizontal axis looks at connection. Is the customer absorbing the event from the outside, or are they completely physically immersed in it? This creates 4 distinct realms. First up, education. You are actively absorbing information, kind of like being at a wine tasting. Second is aesthetics. You are passively immersed, just enjoying the environment around you, like standing in a national park. Third is escapism. You are actively immersed and actually changing the outcome, like playing a round of golf. And finally, the fourth is entertainment, where you are passively absorbing the event, like kicking back and watching a concert. And within this framework, the very nature of work completely shifts. Pine and Gilmore have this great line: work is theater. And they don't just mean that as a cute metaphor. They mean it as a literal, practical model. Whenever workers perform in front of the watching eyes of customers, they are actors on a stage, and their primary job is to engage the audience. Think about the Geek Squad for a second. They don't just show up and fix computers. They actually audition their employees. They wear highly specific costumes: the white shirts, the clip-on ties, the shoes with backward logos. They even drive these black and white geek mobiles. When they show up at your door, they might flash a badge and say something like, "Slowly step away from your computer, ma'am." I mean, that is pure street theater, completely designed to create an unforgettable customer experience. Which brings us to Section 3, testing the theory. So the theory sounds amazing on paper, right? But let's play detective for a minute. do real, actual people behave in a way that matches this clean theoretical framework? To find out, we're looking at a fantastic empirical study by researcher Claudia Jarofsky. It's based in the Verde Valley of Arizona, which is this really cool region famous for its mix of state parks, historic sites, and spiritual vortexes. Jarofsky tracked the real human behavior of visitors over an entire year, using almost 1,300 detailed surveys, just to see if their activity choices naturally grouped into those 4 realms of experience we just talked about. Looking at the numbers, the overall participation rates were predictably high. Over 31% visited the parks, about 30% went hiking, and over 28% hit the shops. But the real magic happened when the researchers ran a factor analysis. That's basically a statistical method to see how these different activities cluster together based on tourist behavior. And guess what? The activities grouped almost perfectly into our 4 theoretical realms. Aesthetics captured the hikers and park visitors. Escapism grabbed the golfers and the rock climbers. Education naturally scooped up the shoppers and the art gallery goers. And entertainment perfectly captured the people taking scenic train rides. The academic theory completely held up to the real-world data.
All right, Section 4, blurring the boundaries.
But, like any good detective story, there is a plot twist here. The researchers ran a binary regression analysis just to see if participating in one realm predicted participating in an opposing realm. And it turns out, tourists who engage in a highly active, immersive escapist activity, like bouncing around on a bumpy backroad Jeep tour, are actually 4 times more likely to also enjoy a scenic train ride, which is a classic passive entertainment experience.
And this cross-pollination, it is everywhere in the data. Visitors to cultural and historic sites, which is a passive, aesthetic immersion, are almost 6 times more likely to actively absorb information at art galleries, an educational experience. They're nearly 4 times more likely to go shopping. And those shoppers, they are 3.5 times more likely to go visit natural state parks. The big takeaway here? Participating in one realm does absolutely not preclude you from participating in the exact opposite realm. In fact, visitors clearly crave a blended mix of activities. The boundaries between these experiences are entirely fluid and unstructured.
Finally, Section 5, the final stage, transformation. So, now that we see how these experiences function and how beautifully they blend together, we've got to look at the end game. Because beyond commodities, beyond goods, services, and even experiences, lies the transformation economy. In this stage, the primary economic offering isn't just a fun memory. It is the actualization, the enduring, lasting change of the individual customer. The buyer here isn't just looking for content or a simple transaction. Their entire basis of purchase is an aspiration, a hope, or a personal dream. Let's define exactly what we mean here. A transformation happens when an experience is mass customized so perfectly to a specific person's needs that it deeply integrates into their life and fundamentally changes who they are. As the authors note, European languages actually have 2 distinct words for experience. Erlebnis is something experienced fleetingly, just right there in the moment. But Erfahrung, that is an experience that causes deep reflection and actually alters a person over time. Transformations take a simple experience and turn it into that lasting Erfahrung. You aren't just entertaining a guest anymore, you are actively guiding a personal transformation. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. What experiences are you staging right now that could trigger a true transformation? Because this shift, it is undeniably here, simply delivering baseline services just to save people time, it's not going to cut it anymore. The businesses that are really going to thrive in the future are the ones that recognize work as theater, that stage incredibly authentic, captivating experiences, and ultimately guide their customers toward meaningful, lasting transformation. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep looking for the experiences all around you.